everyone. We are live from Cabo Verde. I am just getting set up. This is going to be a short session. I'm on my laptop without my full streaming setup. I'm competing in the World Tour event in Cabo Verde. I'm currently sitting in 9th place, and I'm hoping to better my position, which is possible because we run a double elimination system. Live. So let me just write up the banner live from Cabo Verde PWA World Cup 2022. All right. So I'm not sure how many people are going to show up today. This obviously was not a guarantee. I thought I might be competing. And so I said that we might not be doing a live stream, but they called the competition off for the day. And so here I am. And we can talk about anything that you guys want to talk about. We can talk about questions about the competition. We can do our normal coaching. I would like to go through the group because I'm competing doesn't mean that we shouldn't go through the normal coaching as much as we can. And I know that there were some good posts in the Facebook group this week. Hey Hans, hey Rich. So we can go through the Facebook group. But if you guys have any questions about the competition, feel free to fire away. I can go through a little bit of the footage, my footage from the event. Hey, Tomas and Caro. Yeah, Caro, I'm focused on the event, but I'm also super happy to share the experience with the community. You know, you guys are so great, and I love, I love spending time with you virtually or not. It's definitely rewarding, more rewarding than coming 9th in a competition, which I just did. Well, the competition isn't over, so hopefully, hopefully, we keep going. I'm not sure, Tomas, if we're going to keep going or not. John, yes, the 95 leaderboard had a little repair that was done, the best that I could find in Santa Maria. But in my last heat, I just broke through the repair again. So that board is out of commission once more, unfortunately. Here, I can go through and share. Hey, Jorg. Hey, Matt. Thank you, everyone, for the support. I'm trying to share my video from today, but it's giving me a hard time. Let's see. Meanwhile, I wonder if you guys have any questions. So for some reason, Opera has lost my screen share permission. I don't know why that is. That's annoying. We had this issue once before where I wasn't able to share my screen. So let me just quickly try and do that. All right, let's see if it works now. Hey, Greg. Hey, Jim. Yeah, so the other locations, what are the other locations like? Meanwhile, I'll try and answer some of these questions as I try and get this to work. Right, let's go through the questions. So Jim, the other locations on Sal, they were not actually working better with this swell. So we thought that they would be, but Little Hokipa was closing out. The waves were too big. Alibaba was on the smaller side. It wasn't connecting all the way through. So I think there were some fun rides to be had for anyone freesailing there, but it really wasn't epic conditions. The best sailing, I think, on the whole island for the whole day was in Santa Maria itself. So right in front of the Angulo Center, there was a left that was about mast high with very offshore port tack winds. And they were looking at moving the competition there, but the The winds were a bit too offshore when they were looking, and I think there were some moments that were better later in the day. But again, it was just moments. And so where we were sailing was basically on the rocks. So hey Ragnar, and yes, that's an astute observation. We were sailing on the rocks, and we've been sailing on the rocks almost this whole competition. But the waves today moved in much closer to the rocks, which is a function of the north swell, a function of the smaller waves. And at the end there, it started getting dangerous. Arthur Arutkin hurt his foot because he landed in aerial and had to come down in the rocks in order to land the move. So it ended up getting quite sketchy, which is why they called it off for today. Hey Pekka, thanks for the kind words. Hey JD. Um, So a Facebook user is asking why I'm not using the Ezzy Wave in all sizes. So the sails that I'm on that are not the production, full normal production sail that you're used to seeing are prototypes. And they may or may not be better than the current um, production sail. I'm liking the prototypes, but it's not a finished product yet. I think in these conditions, the two sails are pretty close. And so I want to get some more time on the prototypes just to test them further. But those are prototypes. So they still are Ezzy waves, but they're prototypes. They have some slightly different shaping and some different things that we're experimenting with on the sails, maybe for 2023. All right, Jorg is saying the rocks there look scary. How do you make sure you don't end up on the rocks, an eye on the rocks and a wave at the same time? A lot of guys are ending up on the rocks. How do I do it? I try not to think about them. You know, one of the funny paradoxes of sailing around rocks is that rocks are kind of a mindset. And if you're thinking about the rocks, it actually makes it more likely that you go on the rocks because you're paying attention to them. But anyway, so I try to have an awareness about where the rocks are, but not not focusing on them. So when I'm riding the wave, I'm really just focusing on the wave, and I get pretty close. Like for example, I knocked my fin out again today, which then broke the repair on the fin box. Unfortunate. So sometimes we get a bit too close, and I've had some kind of close calls. But in general, I've got kind of a tunnel vision where I'm really just paying attention to what's right in front of me on the wave, with then a general feel for what's happening more down the line, and also a general awareness of where the rocks are. But it feels very close. It feels like I'm bottom turning on top of the rocks. Thanks, Rasmus. Thank you. And Tomas, to answer your question, all of the sails that look different are prototypes. So the full orange one is a 5.0 prototype, and the 3-color one is a 4.7 prototype. But the ones that look different are all just different kinds of prototypes. And whether they're better or not, I'm not sure. Like there's still more testing that we have to do, and this is interesting testing. It's interesting conditions to test the sails in. I've already tested them on Maui, and then we already have more prototypes coming that are advancing on what we're working on with these prototypes. And so in fact, those are probably already on Maui, waiting for me when I come back. All right, let's see. Any more questions? I'm still trying to see if I can share my screen. Hey, Gil, thank you for the kind words. So Gil asked, for those that are planning to windsurf Hokipa for the first time, what is the best tip you can give in terms of going out against the high waves, scary rock, strong current, on and off wind? I know about the channel. What else? So let me quickly answer Mert's question, Gil, before I get into that. Mert asked about my backup board. So I came with 3 boards here. And so I have a 95, an 88, and an 84. Hola, Danny. And so I've got the 88, which floats me in most conditions. The 95 is better when the wind is lighter, and it really picks up just kind of any wave. You know, I didn't bring a backup in any size. If I would have brought a backup, I would have brought a backup of the 88 because that's what I use the most. But all of these boards are custom, one of a kind boards, and I haven't been able to get boards really during COVID, custom boards. I've just been able to get the production boards. And I could have bought another production 95 as well, I guess, and brought 5 boards. But then at a certain point, it's just really a lot of gear, and um, yeah, I already came with so many bags and so much stuff with the 3 boards, and I got doubles of all my sails, or of the main sail sizes, and doubles of my masts, and multiple booms. I've got 4 booms, um, lots of masts. I've got a 4.2, a 4.5, 2 4.7s, 2 5.0s, and 2 5.5s. That's my setup. So it's already a lot of stuff, and yeah, I generally don't have an issue with stuff breaking. So that's what I brought. So Dom Dom, the 95 is not an asymmetric. It's the only one of my boards that's not an asymmetric, and it's actually, as you can tell from the graphic, an older board. And it's something that I've been trying to sell on Maui, and I was kind of frustrated that people weren't buying it. And when this event was announced, I started looking at my bigger boards. First, I thought Taboo was going to be able to make me some boards for this event, and then it seemed like the timing wasn't there. So then I went through my gear shed on Maui and pulled out all the big boards, and I looked at this one, took it out, big day at Hokipa, and it felt amazing. I really liked it. I really like this board, even though it's a bit older. Turns really well, really smooth. I really like my other boards too, but the 95, that little bit of extra volume really helps for just getting on the waves. It just picks up the swell. Um, my boards are more for bigger waves. They do have extra length in them, but this is more of a Rasmus. This is more of a bigger wave spot. It's rare that we're competing with such tiny, tiny waves. And even somewhere like Little Hokipa, my 88 is pretty solid for there. All right, let's go back up in the questions. Jim, I'm going to get to your question. Let me answer Gil's first about Hokipa. So yes, there are big waves. There is the rocks, and there is current, but you really want to use the channel. And so that's what you mentioned, but that is really the number one thing. And I think the best entry into Hokipa is to ride it on a smaller day first, before the waves are big. And then you understand how the whole system works, because once you understand how the Hokipa system works, it's actually really easy. It's a lot easier than other spots. It's like a conveyor belt. You just ride the current around the rocks, you ride the waves and you ride it to the channel, and it just takes you around and around and around. You're riding the waves and the current, and it's quite easy to do. So yeah, it's quite easy. If you come to Maui, let me know. We can talk about doing a lesson, or talk about doing something else there. I'm happy to introduce anyone to the spot. But like I said, you really want to go there on a smaller day. You want to really use the current, figure out where the rocks are. And like I was saying with the rocks here, you don't really want to focus on the rocks. If you're focusing on the rocks, one, you're not going to be having as much fun. And two, that's, you go where your focus is. And so you don't want to go to the rocks. And that's where you might end up if you're focusing on them the whole time. Facebook user asks, aren't we producing prototypes in Maui? No, prototypes are all produced in our factory in Sri Lanka. Years ago, we produced the prototypes on Maui, but it's faster and closer, or makes it easier for then when we're putting the sails into production. The designs are all done on the computer. That's sent to Sri Lanka, and then those sails are sent to Maui. And the whole process, from when the designs are sent to when the sails arrive, takes about a week. Sometimes a little bit more on the week, depends on the shipping. Rasmus, one more point about my boards. It comes down as well to the baggage issue. I mean, yes, I could bring some other boards on the off chance that we're sailing smaller waves, but then what am I bringing? 6 boards? I don't know. There's a certain point where it's just not worth the hassle and money and stress of the whole thing. I already have a lot of stuff. All right, Jim, can I comment on how COVID affected sail production? COVID affected windsurfing production across the board. It, affected sails, boards, everything, and it really there was a cascade effect, because it made it harder to get the materials. it made shipping of everything harder, and so it made it harder to ship the materials. Once the materials were made, it made it harder once the sails were finished to ship the sails because there were all kinds of problems with shipping. And then additionally, we had COVID issues in Sri Lanka, and we really wanted to keep our workers safe and not scare them. They were really scared looking at India and all of the unfortunate deaths that happened in India because of COVID. And so we had a lot of days where we were not producing many sales or any sales at all, even. So it really slowed down the production. At the moment, things seem to be a bit better. Yeah. All right. More questions. Samuel's asking any advice about sailing harbor wall. I tried it for the first time, and all right, Sam, you've got it. And it looked pretty safe, but I stayed mostly on the shoulder and observed the others. I think that's the way to do it. I think you don't want to stay too far upwind on the harbor wall because then you're coming in on the rocks. And if you're on the shoulder, you can gradually work your way a little bit more upwind, more and more and more. And then it's quite a safe spot to sail. One of the things I would recommend doing is really working on feeling the power of the wave, focusing on your wave selection, picking up the speed from the wave, and feeling that power. I think it's a good spot at the harbor wall to work on just feeling that transfer of energy from the wave into your board speed. And so I think that's something that's good to work on, and then work on just making your way deeper and deeper on the wave. Another bit of just generic advice that will help no matter where you are is to get low before you go. So get low on your knees before you start thinking about your ride. Thank you, Caro. That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, my boards feel good in these waves. If it gets really tricky, then the extra length is a disadvantage. But that said, I had in one of the warm-ups yesterday, or the times between heats, I had a perfect planing one-handed goiter, which JC took a picture of. But I can't see my screen. I don't know why. I've been trying to go and adjust the settings, but according to my computer, the settings are correct, but it still doesn't want to share. Here's the one-handed goiter. So this is on my 88, which I was sailing on, and that managed to I landed that planing, so it worked. Yeah, I don't know, Rasmus, about the quad. So you're saying that quad had a mass track back, had a huge advantage in tight and fast turning. What's your take on that? I think there's a huge difference in the waves that allow for different kinds of turns. Like not every heat has had the same kind of waves. Like my heats, for example, I've had quite poor wave conditions compared to other heats, and a lot of the waves that are coming are kind of racing, and they're quite fast, which make it quite hard to fit in some vertical turns. But some of the other heats are different. I'm not really sure with quad versus thruster in terms of the turns. Bant looks really good. He's on a quad, but I'm not sure if there's a huge difference. I'm very comfortable on my thrusters here, and I wouldn't be on quads. Tom says, Samuel, wall is best on lower tides up to 1 hour before and after low tide. If you crash, just drift outside the shallows. Generally, not much risk there. Yep, good advice. So Facebook user says, there's some young talents in the event. Who impressed me the most? I was very impressed with Bant. He's not one of the youngest guys anymore, and I see him a lot on Maui, so I wasn't surprised. But I was very impressed with him. I was also very impressed with Baptiste Clairac, the French rider, and he's also someone that impresses me wherever I see him sail, whether it's in Cape Town or in Pozo, and that's been the case for a few years now. Otherwise, from the young riders, those were the big standouts for me. I'd have to think about it if there was someone else who really stood out. The Japanese riders are sailing well, but again, that's not a surprise. They stand out everywhere. All right, Ragnar says, Duncan stresses that you should go vertical. There were very few doing vertical turns and vertical aerials. I guess the offshore wind angle makes this difficult. Yes, good observation. The offshore wind makes it very difficult to have a good vertical approach, and also because the wave is so fast. And so you really want one that holds up a little bit and peels rather than races down the line. Jim asked, when's the last time I sailed San Carlos? And are there plans to go again? The last time I was there was in 2013 with that video that I did with Kevin Pritchard. It was an amazing swell, well over mast high, lots of fun. At the moment, there are no plans to go back, but I really like sailing there. San Carlos is a really fun spot. I'm not sure what the situation's like now with COVID and everything, whether it's possible to go, whether it's open, whether Solo Sports is open, whether everything there is open, whether you can camp. I don't know anything about that. But I would like to go back at some point. I don't know if that will be this year or some other time. All right, Samuel, sounds good. All right, so I'm going to try and share my screen one more time and see if we can get into some coaching. All right, let's see if we can make this work. Huh, it still doesn't work, which is really annoying. I'm using StreamYard to do this. I switched to StreamYard from OBS, and it needs permission to share my screen, which it has. So let me just give it permission or undo it and then give it again and see if that makes the difference. Otherwise, you guys can keep asking me questions. All right. And what else are we expecting for the rest of the event? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're going to finish. I think that there's the possibility that we go up the coast tomorrow to Little Hokipa to finish, but I'm not really sure that the conditions will be good enough. All right, let's just see if we can make this work one more time. All right, let's see if this works now. All right, let me see if this works. And then I'm going to get to the questions. And if it doesn't work, then we can just chat for a little bit more. And then I'll, no, it doesn't work. There's some issue with StreamYard. So I'll answer the questions and then I'll sign off. And we'll just talk about all the footage that's in the Facebook group next week, Sunday. So Caro asks, are there any camps planned this year? Yes, I would like to do multiple camps this year. It's really difficult still with COVID to plan these things well in advance. But I would like to do something in Tenerife. I'd like to do something in Klitmiller, possibly something in Portugal if there's the interest for it. So just stay tuned. I definitely do plan to do some camps this year. All right, Facebook user asked, maybe someone asked you already, 2 different boards, customs. Yep, so one is a 95 and the other is an 88, and they're both customs, yes. Tomas asked, do the results count after each completed round, or do you have to finish the whole thing? After each completed round. That is correct. Hey, Mario. I hope you are good. All right. So let's leave it open for questions for another few minutes. And then I'm going to sign off because we won't be able to go through the footage. Unfortunately, it's just a little bit of a technical issue. I'll have to troubleshoot it once we get off. It's been running so seamlessly with the new software the last few times we've streamed together. And as always, post your questions, comments, videos, photos in the Facebook group. If you're not in the group, the link is here, somewhere here. and it's a great community, and I love the responses that all the community members give. It's not, if you're not a member of the community, you might think, oh, it's just somewhere where I'm commenting on the post, but that is really not the case. The community members are what makes it special, and I comment very little, actually. I like to give my advice when I can, but um, the real treasure of the community is that a group of people contributing. And I should take this opportunity to say that you don't have to contribute. The silent members, the members that don't post or don't comment, are also welcome. You don't feel pressured that you have to contribute and you have to post. I value all of the members of the community, whether you're posting or not. It's great that everyone's there. Um, John asks, are all the sailors invited in Cabo Verde, or could everybody sign in? There was a selection process for the riders. And so the top 16 from the last year's ranking, so 2019, get in automatically. And then there's a rolling ranking, which is then the next, I think it's the next 6 places. And then there's an organizer wild card. So Liam Dunkerbeck got Liam Dunkerbeck got the sponsor wild card. And then there was an organizer wild card. And so Josh Shangulo was organizing the event, and he gave himself one of the wild cards and Bujma one of the wild cards. And then the rest of the riders were wild cards that fit in there. I don't know how many spots that is. I think it's 6 or 8. Thomas Svensson asks, how much does Burned weigh? Burned is about 70 kilos, 69, 70 kilos. Rasmus asks, wouldn't sponsors be more satisfied if the contest goes all the way, enhancing the probability of having it next year? Rasmus, I don't think it has anything to do with whether it happens next year or not. I think the sponsors don't necessarily care. In fact, I think one of the issues with finishing it and whether we can go to Little Hokipa is making sure that the sponsors are happy, because at Little Hokipa there won't be live stream, there won't be live scoring, because there's no internet connection there at all. So that needs to be cleared with the sponsors before we can move up north. Jim asked, do you think the comp will be able to compete? Will they consider extending the window? They will not consider extending the window. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what will tomorrow. We might be able to finish the double. We might not. But there's a finished result either way. We had great conditions in the single elimination, and we do have a full result. So by any measures, it's finished. Ragnar asked, I mentioned in the stream that I consider coaching Koster. Was that a serious proposal? Yes, it was. And I started talking with him a little bit on the beach about it. I'm not sure if he would be interested in it. Philip is quite guarded. And I meant it really genuinely. And I felt like he and his team, they started to get a little bit defensive, saying, oh, we're not on production boards, we've got custom boards, and getting a little bit defensive about it, because one of the things I was commenting on were his boards, which didn't seem to be working very well in the waves. But I really like Philip. I think he's obviously an amazingly talented windsurfer, and I would like to coach him, because I think he could really improve and really shine in these conditions, even though he doesn't at the moment. And it's something coming out of this event. I see other riders who are really dedicated and doing well in other locations, but don't seem to have a foothold in these conditions. And I'd offer some coaching to them as well. I'm not sure if they take it. Coaching at the highest level of windsurfing isn't as developed, or it's not developed at all compared to other sports. Most of the riders don't have coaches. They just kind of figure it out as they go along, and there is some kind of ego or pride thing attached to it, even though with coaching, obviously you can improve way faster. We see with Kai Lenny, I think it's really interesting. One of his goals is to get good enough with his surfing, his normal surfing, to get on the WSL, and he's got coaches who are helping him do it. You can't do that on your own, like any other serious sport. So after this event, I'm going to approach some of the guys that I think have the raw talent and the hard work that would benefit best by some coaching. Yeah, I agree with Thomas Svensson. The very best. You need to coach most of all sports. Coaching is really important. I'm so grateful for the coaching experiences that I've had. You know, in windsurfing, Kevin Pritchard has given me a lot of coaching about competing. It helped me so much. Kevin has helped me so much, coaching me about how to compete. You know, before Kevin started coaching me, I was kind of a mess, getting emotional or not really understanding the dynamic of what a competition is. And Kevin obviously is one of the legends of our sport, and I'm very grateful the many events I've had where he coached me through them. And then I've had some other coaches here and there for different things. It's hard in windsurfing to have a coach um, for everything. You know, they're so different, right? And in something like surfing, you would also have different coaches. You have a fitness coach, you have um, a turn coach, competition coach, all of the above. All right, everyone. I'm gonna open it up for one more minute. I'm gonna put the timer on. Let's put the timer on for 1 minute. I'm gonna open it up to more questions, and then I'm gonna sign off. Um, and I'm gonna figure out. So the timer's on. There it goes. I'm gonna figure out about this technical issue so that we can have our normal live stream next week. Sunday, I'll be back on Maui if all goes according to plan with the flights. Um, Oh, Greg, cool to hear that you've been to Punta Preta. I didn't know that. Did you have a good time on the island? I'm very impressed with how much the island has developed since I was last here, which I think was 2017. They've done a great job of sort of renovations on the town here in Santa Maria. It's really nice. Um, Ragnar asked, which of the guys are the best, in my opinion, on this event? I think I would say the standouts for me are Bant Rodiger, Josh Angulo. Um, Brasinho has some good moments, but also um, some moments where things are not working. So I think Bant, Josh are big standouts. Otherwise, you know, there's some guys that look clean. Thomas, Camille, all of that. But yeah, my the standouts for me were Josh and Bant, and there were more moments from Brasinho that were also really good. Um, and then you know there's some just clean sailing from Camille and Thomas, I would say. Um, Mario asked, "What are the learning points from the event?" There are many. I've actually learned a lot in this event about sailing, about competing, about life, and that's something maybe I'll talk about next week Sunday. I need to digest everything a little bit more. About the sailing, I can go through the footage of my heats and we can talk about it and about the other stuff as well. Um, Rasmus says there's a lot of talk about only the lightweights in the final, but what is more striking is that they're all lower than 10% body fat. Yeah, I think they're not only are they small in stature, I think they're all incredibly skinny. They're probably like 7% body fat. I think everyone that made the final is under. I would probably say is under 75 kilos, except with the exception of Brasinho. You know, Brasinho is 90 plus, but also low body fat percentage. Um, Yeah, Rasmus says that body weight to strength ratio is very important. That's true. I think there's also an issue with how we do the priority system in windsurfing, and that might change in future events. Um, Pascal asks, are there less rocky windsurf beaches in Sal? Yes, there are. There's some really great windsurfing spots that are sandy, especially in Santa Maria or on the kiting side. I'm not an expert in all of them. You know, I've mainly sailed the rocky ones, but there should be a guide that you can find online. I'll see if I can find something to post in the group. Um, JA Physio says there was an interesting interview on Windsurfing TV about coaching with the coach of Francisco Goya back when he got world champion. Yeah, that'll be interesting. Scott Sanchez was Goya's coach. I'll try and look at that. Um, all right, guys, that's the end of the minute. I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for joining me. We will see each other next week. I will be on Maui, and we'll resume our normal live stream. I hope you have a good week. I hope it's windy. Hope you get on the water. Post in the Facebook group if you have photos, videos, or questions. All right, take care.